And welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from the one who asked the question, who would win the fight? Kylo Ren and Rey versus Anakin Skywalker. Now, I have done Kylo Ren and Rey versus Ahsoka Tano and Galen Merrick, so that one's, you can get my viewpoint on that one in the playlist. I've also done Kylo Ren versus Anakin before. Same as before, you can get my view on that in the playlist. So, I have basically done a weird combination. Rey and Kylo just haven't fought Anakin yet. So here we are. Anakin Skywalker, obviously the chosen one, allegedly, born from an immaculate birth, what became Darth Vader. Now, we will look at Anakin pretty much before he became Vader. In essence, before, say, the midway of Revenge of the Sith. And Anakin at that point had been a general. I'm fairly certain he'd been a general. In the Clone Wars. He had fought many, many battles, fought many, many opponents, be it droids, be it Sith Lords, be it just Dark Force users. He's capable of fighting multiple opponents at once. He's fought opponents with lightsabers before, so he already knows how to fight very effectively armed opponents with lightsabers. He's an experienced combatant. He does have a temper, but unlike someone, for instance, like Kylo, he's had enough experience to at least temper that temper, if you will, when it needs to be done. He will lose his cool, but there's a build-up to him losing his cool. It's not just a complete another, I didn't get what I want, I'm furious, rawr. No, it's, a lot of stuff's kind of happened to build up to that anger, and then he kind of snaps for a moment. Obviously, being a general and a Jedi Knight, actually, he was pretty much level of master. He just wasn't given it because obvious reasons. But he was capable of multiple things with the Force. He could augment his physical abilities with the Force, obviously. His telekinesis was top-notch. We know that he could somewhat peer into people's minds, though it wasn't really like the same level we saw Kylo using. It was only hinted at in Return of the Jedi, where Vader was kind of eking some thoughts into Luke's mind a little bit, pinpointing Leia out there a little bit. So, yeah, it's not something we see him use regularly. It's more than likely he was capable of most of the Force abilities that we see Kylo and Rey using. It's just he never used them or was never really thought to use them. Like, he probably could have stopped the blaster bolt mid-air if he really wanted to. But I doubt he could use the Force Skype thing just because it was the first time we've really seen that. Force Lightning in the game, the video game version of the Revenge of the Sith movie, Anakin later on in the game is capable of using Force Lightning. And it's pretty much said that Vader could use Force Lightning. He just didn't do it because it would have completely destroyed his limbs, because he had 4 mechanical limbs at that point. In fact, it should be noted that the ability to channel Force through a non-living material like a mechanical arm is a testament to how strong of the Force Anakin really was. He was a master of Form 5, though he definitely knew other forms of lightsaber combat. He was a definitive master of Form 5, which is the aggressive form. Should be noted that Vader went on to learn all the forms and created his own forms, but Anakin himself was a master of Form 5 with experience in the other forms. I dropped something. There it is. Rey and Anakin. Now, Rey is a bit more of a student of just learning by the seat of her pants, kind of learning as she goes along. She wasn't really a master of anything. She was an experienced melee combatant thanks to her years training with her staff, and she was a capable duelist. But if you ask me who is the better duelist, Kylo or Rey, it was Kylo. Rise of Skywalker actually kind of proved that. She beat him in Force Awakens, but he was injured and was off his game. In Rise of Skywalker, he was fresh. He was actually in control mentally of the fight. So it was an even fight pretty much. If anything, she might have been a little off her game, if at best. But even so, while the fight started off on even ground, it was clear he was dominant. He was winning that fight. It was pretty clear at that point. He was kind of just, whatever. It's like she comes out and says, "Stop it. And then the only reason he lost, he got distracted. That was the only reason he lost. So, yeah, I would say that Kylo is the better swordsman between the two of them. And Kylo is a very good swordsman, particularly because of the weapon he has to use. He has to be very conscious of the exhaust ports on his blade, the crossguard, if you will. Otherwise, he himself could accidentally get hurt. And they make for a good little secondary, blast of energy. The question right off the bat here is that, do I think Kylo is better swordsman than Anakin? No, I do not. While the comics do imply that he has fought individuals who have like energy weapons, lightsabers, all that, we know for a fact Anakin has had much more experience doing that. He was pretty much, not raised, but spent a good portion of his later years in war, in combat. He had honed himself. He was a warrior. Whereas Kylo was an experienced, solid fighter who was very angsty. That is both Kylo and, surprisingly, Rey's biggest heel, is that they're too emotional. They are far too emotional. They can let their anger, their sorrow get the better of them. And Kylo can go off the rails like that. Rey is similar to Anakin, is that there is a bit of a buildup, but she's easy. But hers is more of a gradual. What's the best way for me to say it? Her rage is slower to affect her, but it affects her more long term. She will become off her game more quickly than Kylo will, whereas Kylo's snap rage is a bit more in tune with his character. He'll make mistakes, but it's just something that it's like his rage is kind of what defines him a little bit. Whereas Rey, it's one of those things that the minute you kind of start to go off tilt, it's just going to be a gradual decline. That's kind of what happens with Rey a bit more. Her insecurities get the better of her more long-term than the snap decisions that Kylo makes. Force-wise, I mean, yeah, they got some abilities Kylo doesn't. We've seen, that Anakin doesn't. We've seen Kylo stop a blaster bolt mid-fire, but it's probably something Anakin could do. We'd never see him do it, so I can't say for certain he could have, but he probably had that. It could do it. The Force Skype thing, admittedly, we don't know if Anakin could do that, but the Force Skype thing, really, there needs to be a level of focus on what's going on there. It's not like, hey, in the middle of a fight, just disappear, disappear. No, it's not that. There does need to be a level of understanding and focus going on. That's why, she paused and then just did that. So, yeah, it doesn't work that way. You can't just, in the middle of battle, suddenly do that. And remember in that scene, Kylo was given a decent amount of space between him and the Knights of Ren. So he was, he had a moment to calm down, catch his breath, and then, he grabbed the lightsaber. So, you could do it theoretically, but it does take focus, and Anakin's not going to give him that focus. Otherwise, the mind reading, we've seen Kylo and Rey is a bit more effective than Anakin's, but again, in the middle of a fight, that's not going to matter. But what else? I mean, telekinesis, we've seen it, and force paralyzing, we've seen that too, but Anakin was clearly more of a master of telekinesis than these guys were. Definitely more of a master there. Especially we've seen some of the things he's done with his powers. The problem here in terms of the level of ability and forces, because it's implied that Kylo and Rey are far stronger than Anakin was at that time. Or that they were going to be like the next Luke, basically. Like even Luke was like, oh no, these guys are so powerful. I was scared of the power that inside them. That's how strong Kylo allegedly was. But the thing about it wasn't so much that they were stronger than these individuals, Luke, Vader, Anakin. It's that they had the potential. And Snoke even says, he saw in him raw potential. Yeah, but the potential doesn't equate to actual ability. A potential equates to the ability you could have, future ability, not your current ability. And while these guys were very powerful, they were not the same level as a Vader, a Luke, a Yoda, a Windu, Anakin, even an Obi-Wan, I'd argue. And Obi-Wan actually doesn't have raw power in the Force. Obi-Wan had finesse power in the Force. He could do very subtle things very well. So if these three met in fight, who would win? We could argue that it's kind of a Dagobah scenario where they are fighting a copy of Anakin. Now, it would have all of Anakin's abilities, mannerisms, all that, but still, it's a copy. Let's go with that. the fight begins. They ignite their lightsabers. It's like, and Anakin even gives it, I'll give you a chance to stop right now. And, stop saying, they make a pose and get ready to fight. And Anakin just is like, very well. And he just walks up to him. And, they make the first move because they're going to be the more hesitant. And Anakin just, pulls out his lightsaber. Anakin has far more experience fighting multiple opponents at once. Because they honestly struggled with Snoke's Royal Guards. Now, granted, I think there was 5 or 6 of them. And, yeah, and they had to fight like 2. They were like fighting 1-on-3, 1-on-2. But still, 1-on-2 is what's going on here. And they were struggling with that. So they each struggled with that. But Anakin didn't have anywhere near that much difficulty because he had so much experience. I have an itch on my back. Because he had, fought so many battles already. So these guys are he's blocking them without too much difficulty. Incorporating force, probably force blasting Rey right into a tree. Just boom. And she's nearly knocked out. It takes a minute for her to, recover from that. Meanwhile, he's focusing on Kylo. Now, their fight's going to be more even. Kylo even tries to force push, but Anakin just does what he did with Obi-Wan, just stops it. And again, raw power, raw potential, Kylo maybe actually outdid Anakin there. Maybe with raw potential. But we don't actually have proof on that. Sorry. There's some clean. We cleaned the rug yesterday, and the smell of the cleaner, I think, is still in the room. I can actually taste that. Wow. But Anakin, in terms of straight raw power at that moment, surpasses him. And just he blows Anakin away. Fortunately, Rey gets back up and she's getting angry because she does that yell. She does that anger yell. And Anakin's now just like, you're letting your anger get the best of you, Rey. You shouldn't do that. I'm trying to do my best, Hayden Christensen. You shouldn't do that. That's the path of the dark side. I don't need you telling me what to do. And she gets a shot in him, and he gets blown back, but he quickly corrects himself. And then he decides enough's enough. She charges again. He ragdolls her and just brings her up. She drops the lights there. Guy just boom, just smacks her and just knocks her out cold. So now Kylo was trying to get back up and say, "You really think I would have wanted this for you, Kylo? I wanted you to embrace the light, not the dark." It's like you chose your path, and I chose mine. And it's like, I will surpass you. I will finish what you started. It's like, what I started was a mistake, Rey. Ben, it's not too late. Ben is dead. And it's like, so be it. And they go in again. Now, Kylo's coming in with a bit more ferocity, and Anakin does have to put up more of a fight. But the problem is that you were weak. You couldn't save your wife. Now, he's basically trying to get into Anakin's head. Even if this is a force projection, let's just say he can get into Anakin's head, maybe. And Anakin now is getting pissed off. But here's the key difference. Unlike Kylo or even Rey, who just can't control their anger and just reacts, just like, Anakin's is a lot more of a cold rage until he eventually does snap. Well, here's the thing. Think of all the times we see Anakin Skywalker actually angry. Think of that for a second. Let's go with Attack of the Clones real quick. There is the moment where his mother dies. And yeah, that he's filled with anger. But there's so much build up to that. And that was a burning anger, but he was focused. His anger was controlled and directed. Then there's when he basically snaps at Padme. He's like, I should be stronger than this. I hate them. He has that discussion. But that was a completely understandable thing. That he snaps and then he breaks down crying because he was so angry and sad that he couldn't save his mother. So that was a completely understandable scenario. Then there's the moment where Padme falls out of the ship as they are going to fight Dooku. And yeah, he briefly snapped and wanted to go save Padme, but Obi-Wan was actually able to ground him. And he was able to rein his anger back in. Again, he charged at Dooku. That didn't help. So again, this is young, impetuous Anakin. So yeah, that didn't help. Then you get into Revenge of the Sith, where he's next part where he basically gives into his anger is where he basically decapitates Dooku. And again, that was buildup. He was being egged on by the Emperor. So again, he was in control, but he made the choice. And now there was the snap station where he cut off Windu's arm, but again, that was the ultimate him going to the dark side moment. And and Palpatine says, I know you, I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you powerful. Anakin, through the majority of the series, his anger, there were times he snapped, but even when he got built up to his anger, when his anger was unleashed, it was controlled. It was focused. And controlled focus anger, cold anger, even burning anger, as long as there's control to it, is dangerous anger. It is not anger you want to go against. And Kylo doesn't realize what happens when Anakin gets angry. So, so they're clashing, and all of a sudden, Kylo feels himself being pushed back, and he sees the look in Anakin's face, just that raw anger, that raw anger and fury on his face. And Kylo is actually feeling something he hasn't felt in years: fear, and just getting pushed back, and then Anakin, Anakin quickly just blasts him back, but then Anakin grabs him, does what he did to Rey, ragdolls him. Kylo's at least able to briefly hold on to his saber, but quickly drops that, and then just ragdolls him, kind of think of Hulk and Loki, but with the Force. So he just boom, boom, smacks Kylo Ren, and Kylo and Rey kind of just wakes up a little bit, and Kylo's just, it's like, you do not mention my wife ever. Don't you ever mention my wife. And Rey briefly is trying to, get her lightsaber. She's able to grab it, but unfortunately, or try to grab it. Unfortunately, it goes flying towards Anakin. He's like, this was mine. And then he's got two of his lightsabers, and he comes in and just, takes them both down. Because there's nothing they can do against him at this point. When Anakin was at his prime, specifically when he was angry and willing to just take someone out, you would be lucky to live in a bout with him. These two just don't have the experience. They also don't have the discipline. They are not disciplined very well at all. Like, they can't control their emotions as well as Anakin could. And Anakin couldn't even control his emotions very well, hence why he turned to the dark side. But comparing the level of control of emotions they had, Anakin had a better control over his emotions, including his anger. Like, he knew how to use his anger properly. Whereas Kylo just thought being angry was all you needed. And that's not quite how it worked. So, yeah, I just don't see them even 2-on-1, even as potentially powerful as they are, I don't see them beating Anakin in a fight. I just don't see that happening. But ultimately, though, what do you think? Do you think they could beat Anakin in a fight? By all means, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to see. If you think they can't, don't just say, oh, they totally beat him. It's like, no, give me a reason why they beat him. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get people who say that anyway, but I would at least like someone to explain their reasoning for why they think this match was improperly determined. Wow, my grammar is just all over the place, and it's messy as shit. Why it wasn't... why you think I was wrong, I guess is the easiest way to put it. Why do you think I didn't get the match right? Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know the review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Superior, Magic, What If, anything to do with the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I got a What If to do because it's the week of What Ifs. So keep your eyes out for those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.